Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Juma Dennis Orengo, and I'm glad we are catching up once again to continue with the third module of this Roan Academy. I hope you've been well. You can share via the chats how you've been since the last module, where we discussed the Rowan habitat and the Rowan itself, describing the physicalities of the Rowan antelope, why it's important to study the Rowan habitat, because extinction begins from degradation of the habitat of the Rowan antelope. And so today I'm very much excited once again to catch up together to continue with this module of the Rowan Academy, where today we'll basically be going through threats and challenges the Rowan antelope faces in its survival. And just to remind ourselves, we said the Rowan antelope is facing a critical threat of extinction, and it has been blacklisted on the IUCN red list. Rowans used to occupy very huge parts in East Africa, mainly Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, Ethiopia, and parts of Eritrea. But unfortunately today, we only find the Rowans in a very small patch in Kenya, in Lambwe Valley, habited by the Ruma National Park. And so we want to study the habitat, the threats to and challenges to Rowan antelope survival. And so without further ado, I would welcome you to this session of the Rowan Antelope Academy. In case of any questions, comment, kindly feel free to post on the chats. And so, what is the first threat to the Rowan antelope survival? Because for us to conserve, to protect the Rowans, we have to know the threats that they are facing, the threats and challenges that they are facing to their survival. And the first threat that I want us to discuss today is the habitat loss and fragmentation. The Rowan habitat has really been fragmented. The habitat has really been degraded. And one of the reasons that has caused this fragmentation is increase in human population. And increase in human population leads to more need for agricultural land, expansion of human projects. So people have gone outside their jurisdictions. Humans have gone outside their jurisdictions of where they're supposed to do or conduct farming. And they've invaded the grasslands where the Rowans live. And this has really caused a huge of degradation among the Rowans. And once their habitat has been interfered with, then the Rowans have to migrate, and unfortunately, some have to die. Ladies and gentlemen, human settlements and infrastructure projects has also led to degradation of these Rowan habitats. For example, if you come to Ruma or Lambwe Valley, where the Rowans live, you'll find that so many people consider those areas as cool for human habitat for staying, and sometimes they even consider such areas as suburbs for the wealthy. And so these humans have highly encroached, and this encroachment has led to cutting down of so many trees and grasslands. And this has led the Rowans to migrate. And unfortunately, they are migrating to places whereby those environments do not favor their survival. So the end game is the Rowans end up dying. And also because of human encroachment and infrastructural projects, they interfere sometimes with the water system. And so the Rowans are not even able to access or get water for drinking. But most importantly, you find the humans now think that it is the Rowans which are invading their habitat, forgetting that they got the Rowans in their natural space. So when a Rowan crosses to come to graze where a human has planted his farm, they start poaching and killing these Roan antelopes, forgetting that they are the ones who invaded the Roan space. And this has really led to a threat and contribution to extinction of the Roan antelopes. Ladies and gentlemen, another thing is encroachment into protected areas reduces safe spaces for the Roans. There's so much encroachment in protected areas where these Roans are. So you find people come in as poachers to kill the Roans. Others come in to farm inside the game parks or the national parks. Others come to graze, obviously. Others come to poach. Others come to conduct other businesses. Others claim they have beehives in national parks. So this really interferes with the wild nature of the Roans, and they get threatened. And another thing that I want us to discuss that is really contributing and is a major threat and challenge to the Rowan antelope survival is poaching and illegal hunting. So many people who visit high-end hotels like to associate themselves with game meat because they feel eating game meat is it introduces someone to exposure, so that when they go back to maybe they travel to other countries, or these are tourists who visited the country, they'll be able to say, I got a taste of the Rowan meat. And even local tourist citizens, when they travel out of the country, they be able to say that, in my country, we've been able to have a taste of the Rowan meat. So people think it is pride or it's a high lifestyle for anyone who claims they've had a taste of this Rowan meat. And so what has this contributed to? This has highly contributed to poaching because this meat is very expensive in value. So high levels of poaching have contributed to high levels of poaching have therefore contributed to extensive degradation of the Rowan antelope. And this has also contributed to illicit trade because it's illegal to kill or to poach the Rowans. So the illicit trade has also contributed to high levels of killing of Rowan antelopes and reducing their population in their local or in their normal habitat. Then there is competition with the livestock. As we know, and as we said in our last session, that the Rowans are herbivorous, so they depend on grass. So, but you find it is humans who come to graze in the Rowan habitat. And if someone comes with 300 heads of cattle and Rowans are 100, the 300 heads of cattle are able to overcome the Rowans, and the Rowans will not be able to get enough grass to graze upon or to graze on. So overgrazing, competition with the livestock has really made the Rowans to be threatened, and they are at a place whereby this grazing must be controlled. And this comes from cattle, goats, sheep, and you find they overgraze the grasslands, leaving very little for the Rowans. Ladies and gentlemen, another thing is livestock occupy watering points, reducing water access to the Rowans, and this is a really major threat because as per now we have Rowans secluded in a place. So once these livestock come and occupy these water points, the Rowans are not able to go out, so they'll be able to die because of thirsty. Because of thirst, they'll be able to die because of thirst. And transmission of diseases such as rinderpest, anthrax from livestock, because if the Rowans and the livestock graze together, then this transmission of these diseases like rinderpest and anthrax, they get transmitted to the Rowans. And sometimes before we monitor which Roan is sick, which Roan is not healthy. It takes a lot of time, and this disease spreads at a very high rate. That's why we are saying that they should always be quarantined among livestock and the Roan, so that they don't graze together, they don't come in touch, because rinderpest and anthrax has killed so many Roans, and these were transmitted by the livestock. Another issue that we need to discuss upon, and before we discuss that issue, I'd like us to take a 3 minutes break, and you can start typing your questions on the chat, and also if you have any comment, you can post it on the chat so that we look at it. For now, allow me to give everyone a 3 minutes break, so that when we come back, we'll finish with the last section of the talk. Thank you. Welcome back. And so another issue that really affects Roans, another threat and challenge that the Roans face in their natural habitat, is predation and ecological pressures. So you find that in these Roan habitats, there's a lot of degradation that has taken place, a lot of grass that has been lost. There's so much, the Roans do not have even enough trees where they can rest when the sun is too hot. And the water spaces or the water ponds that are available have also been exhausted and occupied by livestock. So this makes the Roans weak, and they get overexposed to the predators like lions, hyenas, and leopards. So they cannot run. You know, there is a way where a complete food chain should operate. So when the Roans become weak, then they cannot run enough, because there is a number that the leopards and other carnivores should prey on. But if, for example, carnivores in a week should prey on 3 Roans, and they end up preying on 20, so there is ecological imbalance, and this makes the habitat, this makes the ecosystem to lose some value of the Roan antelopes. And that is what we are saying, that in degradation of habitats, Roan become more vulnerable to predators like lions, hyenas, and leopards. And loss of trees and taller grasslands increases that predators' risk. And this is what we are saying, that has been caused by human encroachment. This has been caused by high agricultural land use, and also calves are especially vulnerable to predation, because when herds are small and fragmented, then it's easier to notice the calves. Remember, the calves cannot run faster. So this makes them to be very, very vulnerable to predation. Then another challenge that the Roans are facing in their natural habitat is the issue of climate change, because even now, the Kenya Meteorological Department has issued early warning, and we are glad to be part of the early warning working group. So as I sit in the early warning working group, the short rains of October, November, December that are coming in the next few weeks, if I check the Rowan habitat, how it's going to be affected, there's going to be a prolonged drought. And these are effects of climate change. So whenever we have prolonged droughts, it means we have very little grass for the Rowans. We have reduced water tables for the Rowans, and this makes them to be susceptible, or this makes them to be vulnerable in their natural habitat. And shifts in rainfall patterns affect grass growth and their habitats. And so this increases stress and reduces the breeding capacity or breeding success of the Rowans. Another thing is weak conservation capacity. And this mainly we say it's lack of political goodwill, because, for example, if the National Assembly is passing a budget, and we check how much is allocated to Ministry of Wildlife and Tourism. And after that, how much is again allocated to species that are facing the threat of extinction? We find they normally allocate less than 0.0009% to species in protection of species that are facing the threat of extinction. And that is why we as an individual and consulting other legal minds, we always write to the Treasury, petitioning National Assembly each and every year that we need at least 1% of wildlife and tourism to go into conservation and protection of species that are facing the threat of extinction, like the Roans. But unfortunately, that political goodwill has never come. And we have to continue pushing because some of these things can never be realized within a day. And another thing is limited staff, limited resources. For example, at Ruma or Lambwe Valley, you find without community support, without support of goodwill of people like you and I, then we have very, very few wildlife rangers or officers who are able to man these spaces and protect the Roans. And last but not least, low awareness and community conflicts. There is so much little awareness concerning conservation and protection of the Roans. And that is why this academy came into being. Because through this academy, through other events, through community organizing events and campaigns, we are able to create awareness. And so many people are able to learn about the Roan antelope. So many people know the benefits of the Roan antelope. Right now, Ruma National Park is one of the most visited parks, like top 4 in Kenya. And it is so much in the interior in Homa Bay County, courtesy of the Roan antelope and the campaigns that we've made consistently to ensure that the Roan antelope is protected. That I always say, don't let the Roan go into silence. And we've received so many visitors at Ruma National Park, so many visitors at Lambwe Valley, so many visitors in Homa Bay County, because they come to see the Roan antelope and joining this campaign. So we have to create awareness in as much as we are trying, but there's still low awareness in protection and conservation of the Roans. And many local communities are unaware of the endangered status. And that's why even when we did the Roan Antelope Marathon early this year in 2025, so many people are asking, why should we not call the marathon a certain name of a village elder around Lambwe Valley? Why do we call it the Roan, give it the Roan's name? And we had to explain to them. And that is what we mean creating awareness. Lack of ecotourism in some areas, communities undervalue Roans, and without community support, conservation efforts struggle. So those are some of the challenges that the Roans face. And just to do a recap, we've said that the Roans face a threat, and the major threat is habitat loss and fragmentation. And this is caused by the humans who are encroaching into the Roan habitat for agriculture, for building infrastructure, and all that. Then we have another notorious thing, which is poaching and illegal hunting for the game meat, which is highly valuable and prestigious. Then there's competition with the livestock. The livestock compete with the Roans in grazing in the grasslands, in water sources or water pan areas. And so this also puts a lot of pressure on the Roans. Then there's predation and ecological pressures. If the Roans become weak, they get overpreyed by the hyena, the leopards, the lions, you see. So above what natural habitat or natural ecosystem or food web should. So this ensures that the Roans get eliminated from the food web. And another thing is climate change, and sometimes too much rainfall, floods, but the worst of it is drought. And this drought sometimes even causes wildfires. Like this year in February, March, there was a huge fire in Roma National Park, where the Roans live, and it was mainly caused as a result of high high temperatures, you see. So we have to work out on issues of climate change to ensure the Rwans are always safe. And then weak conservation capacity, that we've said very little or none at all of the national cake or treasury's budget go into conservation and preservation of species that are facing the threat of extinction. And another thing that we are trying to combat is low awareness and community conflicts among the people. So, ladies and gentlemen, having learned that, what can we do? This is one of the heartbeats of our Roan Academy, to learn, to study the threats and challenges that the Rowan is facing in their natural habitat. Then after studying it, we go back to our communities in our local areas, localize these problems, see which ones are closer to us. If it is in Homa Bay town, which problems are we facing concerning the Rowan antelope on what we've discussed, or even what we haven't discussed? If it is in Kamato village, then what are the residents of Kamato grappling with? Because in Kamato, so many people have encroached and are doing farming inside their own habitats. If it is poaching, what are we going to address about poaching? If it is a policy matter that we've said weak conservation capacity, so how are we going to address the policy to ensure that we get some money to go into conservation and preservation of these species, the ones that are facing the threat of extinction? So, ladies and gentlemen, we have to, as a Roan Academy, we always have a project that we have to do at the end of the academy, and we put participants in groups. So you have to come up with a project on what you are going to do as a group to ensure that we save the Rowan antelope not to go into extinction or to fade into silence. We encourage you to start small. Don't come up with a project that is multi-million. Start small, work in groups of 5, and then I'll be able to guide you well. Organize your community. You can start with crusades. You can start with door-to-door campaigns. You can start with organizing spaces of religious worship or gatherings. You can write petitions. You can form community forest associations and the likes. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, allow me to end today's academy session. And I'm so proud of everyone who is logging in. I'm so proud of everyone who has signed up for this academy. And I encourage you not to quit. We have about 4 more modules to go. And the last module will be practical session on the ground. So keep on keeping on. It is for the good of the Rowans. It is for the good of the flora and fauna. Thank you so much, and see you in the next module. Thank you so much.